Okay, hello everybody. It's Thursday, December 2nd, and this is the Backdrop Weekly UX and Design meeting. Before we start each meeting, we go around the room and introduce yourselves. I'll start with myself. I'm Greg. I'm joining from Greece. I'm generally interested in anything related to Backdrop in any ways that I can help. Really excited. This is the last month that we can get most of the things for the next minor release. So yeah, mostly going to be working on issues each chance I get. I'll pass it on to Robert.
I'm Robert Lang, bug folder on the internet, coming to you from Altadena, California. And I work on various odds and ends whenever I see something that needs doing that I can do. Pass it to Tim.
Okay, I'm not muted, am I? Where's my? Okay.
You're
I'm
good.
Tim Erickson, St. Paul Tim, coming to you from Deerwood, Minnesota. And yeah, I feel like the last month or two, a lot of activity's been happening in Contrib, and I've been doing a lot of Contrib stuff, and now we're zeroing in on feature freeze a month from now. I think it's January 2nd, I think I saw might be the official day. So I'll probably be focusing more on core issues for the next month. And I don't know, I feel like we're starting to focus in. So let's go ahead and get started. We have a small group today. Robert, you were just listing, let's look at you were pulling a few things in, right?
Yep.
So I real quickly, yeah, some of the things you're thinking, I think will be for the next meeting. That's okay. How to handle bug fixes, we should do with Nate at the dev meeting. For this meeting, I was thinking about Hidden Path. I wanted to show a little bit the progress on Hidden Path Nodes and get more feedback, because I think largely what this issue is at right now is largely a stage of give and take on content and stuff. And I just need feedback. And I might need to bring it up briefly in a couple of meetings if we're going to get it in, so we can revise it then. Robert, I think one of the issues there were two issues I was thinking about that you had listed on your list. Where are they? Well, one of them that I think you might need some UX design feedback on is the contextual links one. What was the other one though? Towards the top of your list.
I gotta go find my list.
Okay.
Let's see. There was adding the contextual menu.
Yeah.
To layouts, and got some overnight feedback from Indigo Zella, who said essentially it doesn't play well with some themes and suggested having it off by default. And I've made that change and pushed a revised PR with that.
Yeah, I think, well, sure. Should we just go in and talk about this?
I'll add that to the agenda.
Well, right, and it could be that we don't have too much more to talk about than that. So I added a few comments last night as well. I mean, I think Indigo Zella pointed out that it broke one of her themes. We talked about it a bit. If it is some, had you planned on it being an enable and disable option?
Yeah,
Okay.
It already had the enable disable checkbox. It was just checked by default on new installs. So
well,
I changed the default.
I mean, I think I'm on the side of if we can't of Indigo Zella that we can enable it by default if it's breaking some themes. Yeah, I mean, this is just, it's sort of a little bit gray area, but I lean that way, and I think other people would too. So
yeah, I mean,
if they're comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. The flip side is it's a little harder to discover now.
I agree.
But when things break out from under you, that's much more painful for the developers. So
why don't you Yeah. Have you shared the issue number yet for that, in case anybody's
Yeah, it's 1559.
1559? So I think Jen had been leaning towards the idea, because it was breaking things, of having it in contrib until 2.0. And that, like at 2.0, that's when we could enable this by default. But in the meantime, I think that a good compromise would be having it off by default. So we'll see what others think of that. But that seems to me like a,
And I'm sorry, I gave the wrong number. It's 2626.
okay. Did you have a question, Greg?
Oh yes, which issue we were talking about, but I phased out for a moment. Is it the one with contextual links being one on top of another?
No, that's different. This was adding for layouts, adding a contextual link menu.
Oh yes,
The
yes.
layouts that displayed the layout name and the theme and links to edit that layout. So it's adding a new contextual links to the page.
It sounds like of the people that have been involved in that discussion, it sounds like most of them would be okay with the option, the off by default option. Would be good to hear from Jen what she thinks, but yeah, I think
Greg had commented on it as well.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah, I just didn't check the comments that happened in the last 12 hours, I have to admit. But yeah, it's one of my pet peeves as well. I find it an odd workflow. For those that have been working with Backdrop a long time, they have gotten used to it. Like the workaround is to basically edit the block and then close the dialogue and then do it. But we've sort of like gotten used to that workaround, but it feels like an odd and quirky workflow. So I'm not, I haven't read the last comments, but I've heard you guys say that there's concerns about breaking existing themes because of it.
Well, yes. Robert, do you want to describe that problem a little more?
Yeah, well, so Indigo Zella said when she tried it with the snazzy theme, that the result, she just said it made it ugly, but I interpret that as breaking the theme. Because it does have a checkbox to turn that capability on and off, and when it's off, there's no change to the layout. When it's on, there's new divs for the contextual links. And you know, that certainly could break any theme that used class greater than class that wasn't expecting that div wrapper to get stuck in there. So rather than have the possibility of breaking the theme, Indigo Zella suggested that we just have it off by default and then let people turn it on.
Doc Wilmot is asking something that was on my mind and I was about to say. He's asking it on Zulip. Why not put it in the admin bar? But I think that we've said because the admin bar might not be available to everyone. Was that the reason? It's on by default.
Sure. I think they're just different solutions, and this is the one that Robert pursued. I don't know about the other one.
I mean, people are used to contextual links for blocks and views and nodes and all those other things, and this is part of that same paradigm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't. I don't think it prevents someone from coming up with an admin bar add-on that does the same thing for those who might prefer to keep everything in the admin bar.
Is there any? Sorry, go ahead, Dean.
I was going to say I personally was okay with either of those options. But it seems to me I've heard a couple people prefer the contextual links option.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Greg.
Is there any wrapper contextual link that is on a top level element by default, an existing one that we have now that we can sort of like, I know it might not look perfect, but that we can hook on, like instead of creating a new div for a new contextual link, can we tuck those links into an existing one?
No, I think this is the highest, when it's put on the layout, it's the highest level in the in the tree.
Yeah.
Well, if anybody has any other ideas on how to make this work with it on by default, that would be good. But otherwise, for now, I think, I mean, my history of this was that you had to fix basis, right? It broke basis originally, and then we made an adjustment to basis. And at that time, our assumption was, well, if it could break basis, it could break other themes.
Yeah, although it didn't break basis in that the page looked exactly like it did before. It was that it didn't work in basis because it was hidden underneath the admin bar.
Okay.
So there's separate configuration settings to push it down below the admin bar if you happen to be using basis or another theme that accommodates the admin bar the way basis does. 7 does it differently, and so it works out of the box with no extra changes needed for 7.
Got it.
Just thinking out loud, I haven't tested, or so I'm assuming that the contextual link div gets injected into the top level, like the body, or the top level div that wraps the page.
It wraps the layout.
The layout.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how about if we had a second admin bar like region, which is at the top of the page, but lengthwise, like it didn't have any background, it was transparent, and then the only thing that it would accommodate was that cogwheel for that. Have you tried that? Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe I'm not explaining it properly.
Yeah, I think so.
So instead of having the div within the layout or any other divs that would break the layout of a theme of a page, then have it like, why isn't the admin bar not breaking the themes? Is it because the themes account for it being there? So maybe we could mimic the admin bar, not have it in admin bar itself, like a pseudo admin bar, which is transparent and all it has is a cogwheel floating at the top right or top left, depending on the direction.
That sounds more complicated, more fraught with hazard.
Okay, fair enough.
The difference, basis accommodates the admin bar by putting a margin on the top. 7 accommodates it, I think, with padding. Or maybe it's the other way around. But so with one of them, I guess it's the one with padding. That must be basis. That it then, I'm not sure which, but they do it different ways. This,
okay.
I'd have to play
feels
with
like it's pretty like it basically works. We just need to account for the fact that there is some theoretical case where it won't. I think it would be hard to come up with an entirely different solution that would be likely to work in that theoretical case that it doesn't. Although I guess we could also try it out with Snazzy now that we know that that's one.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Well, I think we've got a progress forward there. And if anybody has more ideas, they can put them into the issue. But thanks for working on that. And the hidden, do we have the hidden nodes issue number in the agenda?
Yeah,
Robert?
it's 4903. That's what it says at least. Hidden path.
Yeah. Okay. Let's, if it's okay, I'd like to talk about that one a minute.
Yeah,
sure.
And I'm going to share my screen because I have some work to show that is not in the PR because, and we'll talk about this, we're having problems. I haven't really worked on the problem since last week, Robert, but, and I'll explain in a minute. So the hidden path, quickly, the summary of the hidden path content type is the idea is to add a new hidden path content type, which is a content type that basically uses the old, what we called rabbit hole, but we have a setting in backdrop that allows you to hide the path from regular users. So if you're creating a type of content that is only intended to be displayed in blocks or in views or in a slideshow, you can hide that so people can't access the regular node. And this is a type of content that is fairly useful in a lot of websites, but a lot of users don't sort of understand how it works. So our goal was to provide the content type out of the box, along with some samples of how it might be used. Now, I think that this issue is primarily at a stage where we need to settle on some images, and these are pretty random images. I'm hoping that somebody will come up with better ones. One of the blockers on this issue right now is that to generate content, we wanted sample content like this. We had a meeting about this about 6 weeks ago, and we spent an entire design meeting talking about this issue. And I think we came to a consensus that if we're going to do some sample content, we'd like some images. The concern one then is how do we create the proper way to create content through the install process? And I have it working on my, Robert and I have both done some work in this area. I've borrowed some of his ideas, and I have it working in my local, but the tugboat builds are not, we're having problems getting the images in the right place and named correctly. And we had a bunch of us looking at this issue last week, and it seems like I think we were pretty sure that the problem is specific to Tugboat. There's something about the way Tugboat builds the sites that is causing this to not work when normally it would. So that one blocker is we can't really get a working PR until we solve that problem, which is probably solvable. But
when you say it's not working properly, what's the issue with this on Tugboat? What happens?
It just doesn't move. It doesn't move the issues and put the images to the right place. So they're if we load this up in Tugboat, the images aren't there.
Oh, they're missing.
Yeah, they're missing. Okay. Yes.
And I take it that you have tried to completely close the PR to destroy the sandbox and restart it.
Yeah, yes, and Doc Wilmont, Peter, and Robert and I all spent about an hour together.
Okay, fair enough.
Trying to get this fixed. So we had smart people looking at it.
Best of minds, yeah.
Yes, well, excluding mine, but yes, the other three at least. Anyways, so that's where they're at. I don't know that I want to be responsible for finding images here, so I just took some cute images that I thought made sense, but I doubt people are going to like. I think these are all Wikipedia or like, the images that should be available to use. But if somebody were willing to do some work on the images, that would be great. What I need is sort of feedback on, this is the first time that anybody is seeing this with all three images. Well, a few people might have, but we had in a recent, oops, where's the, I was going to look for, I got to scroll way back up in the issue. This is getting to be a very long issue. We had a mock-up. Well, there's been various versions of this, and this was a version we had when we last met to talk about this. Olaf had created a mock-up of one that had one image. Sorry about this. So much. There we go. So Olaf had created this mock-up, and I think we all decided that if we were going to do this content, we should do more images. And we also have to talk about the content. So some of the issues coming out of that meeting, the suggestions were: one, more issues; two, Greg, you had made a comment that like we're explaining what these cards are, and then we've got this post, and you don't understand what the difference is. So I added some content here
Yes.
about that, like what's different about this than the things above it. There was also just some discussion about possibly having a link to the user guide.
Yeah, that helps.
We saw that on the Drupal site. I put a couple of direct links into the user guide, like this one taking you directly to the layouts section of the user guide. So what we've avoided is doing, there was talk about having links to things like how to do, to the delete page or for content, but we don't want to do any links that take you to admin pages, because if you're not logged in, those links are broken. But I do have links where I can link to like the user guide. So,
yeah, and the other feedback was that if you view this page as anonymous, then and you click the links, because they're pageless nodes, you're going to get 404s. So we need to render those as text.
Yes, and that is true. And there is an issue. There is an issue in the issue queue, which would be a blocker for this issue to fix that. Jen has a pull request that basically will automatically check. And if you're an anonymous user, doesn't have access to this. And yeah, well, we were working on that pull request already for the last release. So
Cool.
I believe, though, that somebody found a problem with it. So I think the pull request needs work. So I should maybe be focused on getting that fixed, because until we fix that, I don't think we can implement this.
Yep, but it looks promising. As I said, it's pretty close. So basically,
go ahead.
If we were to sort of like bullet point the remaining tasks, is fix the issue with the links, agree on the text that we've added, tweak it, whatever, when we like it, and then find images. Is that it for it? And then solve the problem with a tugboat PR. Those are the things?
I think so. I mean, at one point I had hoped to maybe do a little bit more on the front page, but I think we decided that might not be wise, and I've agreed that we should focus on this part of it. So yeah, what I will do is put a screenshot so people, because people can't use the tugboat right now. Well, actually they can use the tugboat for the content. They won't be able to see the images, although the images probably are not permanent anyways. So if people want to review the content, they can go to the tugboat. Otherwise, I'll also put a screenshot so you can into the issue, so that people can see where this is at and give me some feedback. But I wanted to see if there's anything else I should do before I do that, or it doesn't sound like it. Okay. Yeah. Okay, and I know people are not having time to read all and proof this text right now on the meeting, so let's leave that for the issue queue. Yeah. But if there's no other immediate feedback, I think Gregory, you summed it well in terms of what's left to do, and otherwise, then this is moving along. I do need help with that tugboat issue. Actually, Joseph, were you there last week for that discussion too? Maybe not. Anyways.
I've missed like the last 4 meetings because we've been moving.
Oh yeah, well, good. We'll talk about that later. Hope that went well or is going well. We were during the last. We're doing office hours every Wednesday, at least through the end of the year, and it was last week during office hours on Wednesday afternoon that the Brain Trust tried to solve the problem, and that stopped. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing.
Yep.
And does somebody else have another issue they want to talk about?
Yeah, so I was advocating for 1040, which is basically inline form errors. And I started doing some preliminary work on my local, and then I realized that there's not necessarily blockers. There's both blockers and groundwork, I guess, issues that need to be done before that. Some of them may be considered bugs, or they may be considered tasks, or they're new features, but they all revolve around form API. So some of them are API additions or fixes. So I haven't given up on getting this through to 121. But even if I don't, I will make sure that I bring it closer, like at least I eliminate any blockers to make it happen in the next release. So now there's no pull request for 1040 to say, but now I have a blocker which is bear with me. Issue 5348. So basically, one of the things that we need to do is to switch to HTML5 validation. But if we do that, we're going to get into problems that are already known in Drupal land for Drupal 8 and Drupal 9 that have switched to inline form errors. So I'm trying to make sure that we don't bump into these issues, that we lay the ground before switching to that, so that we don't create any accessibility issues. So yeah. So I've switched my advocation from 1040 to issue 5348, and there's a pull request, a change record, a draft change record, to which people that with access should be able to have eyes on. So yeah.
Okay. Other than drawing our attention to that, is there anything else we can do right now to help you?
I know that when we brought up this issue during past meetings, I think both Jen and Nate sort of like said, "Oh, you picked a hard one," but it doesn't seem to be a hard one.
Okay.
It might be a tricky to navigate around on all these satellite issues that I need to sort, but I trust their judgment. So if there's something that I didn't see that sort of like justifies this difficulty, then
Right.
yeah, sharing thoughts on what might be a problem, so that I at least account for it or look to sort it out.
Okay. Okay. Is that enough on that issue then?
Yes.
Okay. So I want to do one more that could be a quick one, which is actually another one of the ones you listed, Robert. It's issue 4868. This is the help text to the layout page.
Mhm.
I'm going to share my screen again so we can look quickly at what you did. And then my question, which I just think will be easier to answer here than it would be in the issue queue, is an issue. So the issue is we just wanted to add some help text to add to better describe how the layout listing page works. Actually, do you want to say anything more, Robert, about what's going on here? And this is what you did.
Yeah. So just a second. I want to also pull it up. Okay. Basic idea is layouts are probably the most confusing thing to people coming from Drupal 7 because they've never seen anything like it. And we wanted to give them a lot of information that's there on the page, that where the confusion starts. So hence expandable help text. And Greg had recently added the details element, which is wonderful because now we can use that. And so I did.
I was about to ask if you're using details.
Yep.
And that's my question. The reason I wanted to talk about this in the meeting, the functionality in the text I'm pretty happy with. And I think I might have been part of the impetus for this because at a previous meeting, I was asking about how the ordering affected the display of layouts. And that's maybe part of what inspired this. And I've added, another layout type so that I could sort of test what the directions tell me. And I can say from my own experience that this help text would help me understand this page. So,
and something, I've mentioned this in a comment, there's another relevant issue 5077,
right.
which is a reorganization reordering of these layouts, which I hugely am in favor of. It's a gen change that needs to be, I guess, rebased or some work done because it's failing tests. But it groups layout provided pages and overrides separately. And so these, I think this was written with the assumption that would also be applicable, that would also apply.
Okay.
So that we don't have to rewrite the help text as soon as that is approved.
Okay. To your knowledge, is this roughly what you're talking about for this issue?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so my understanding of those issues are that they're interrelated, in that once this gets in, we may have to rewrite the text or adjust it, and that this was basically trying to eliminate the need of having to explain things in help text, if possible, some of the things, right?
Okay, well, I think, Robert, if I understood you correctly, you've already written your text to account for this change, right?
I think the help text, yeah, let me put it, I think the help text works with either
Okay.
display.
Okay.
And once we see them together, there may be fine tuning or something, but
Sure. Yeah.
but it would make sense out of the box with this. But
Okay.
I pretty strongly think help text will be beneficial even when 5077 is in place.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Well, my question is about this details element, and I raised this earlier in the issue, which is my only concern is this a way we want to move forward with this kind of help text? Like if we're doing this on other pages, will we be doing it the same way? It seems to be kind of a new solution to a problem which exists in other places, and is this the right precedence? And I don't have an opinion on that.
Yeah, we already have help text. We have free floating, I should say, so not within any field set or details element in other pages, but that text is like one line long.
Right.
So it becomes an issue only on mobile, maybe, where you would want to sort of like collapse it.
Okay.
But I can only think like the other place that I can think needs lengthy help text is the roles order thing, which has not as much help text, but still considerable. And there is an issue for it. I don't have it with like out of my top of my head now. So yeah, roles and maybe then permissions. Exactly.
Right.
Roles and permissions to explain how things work. So
Yeah, permissions especially.
Yeah, we could reuse that pattern to sort of like collapse text for those that do not need it there. And my assumption is that we'll only use it in really confusing pages that, maybe we do user studies or from feedback from users that things are confusing only then. That's my understanding. But it's not stopping Contrib doing the same thing. I mean, it's just a form API implementation, just adding another form element, basically.
That's my biggest concern about this change is it a pattern that we want to adopt, or are we going to end up with 3 different solutions in 3 different places for the same type of thing? And you guys, I think, have thought about this more than I have. So I'm mostly just looking for feedback.
Yeah, checking this huge text at the top of the page for everyone, basically for those people that already know how this page works, would be hindering, like they would require a lot of scrolling, especially on mobile, to get to the actual content of the page.
No, I'm more thinking about would tooltips or something like that be a different option.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not talking about not having an accordion. That part is fine, but because earlier in the discussion there was talk about should this be a tooltip, should it be a pop-up, or I don't know how else we might do this. And it seems like we settled on this, and I'm fine with this solution as long as as long as we like this solution in other places, and then we don't end up doing it different in each place.
Yeah.
I will say, does anybody else feel like it just looks a little bigger? I think it almost feels like the add layout button starts to disappear because the help grabs my attention, and it almost feels like it should be the opposite, that my attention should be directed to the add layout, and the help should be kind of a little subtler if I need it.
Yeah.
It's just a very minor detail, but
Yeah, my other comment as a feedback is that just help doesn't like as a user experience or journey, I see that I expanded, oh, this explains how layouts work, but I already know that, then I close it, collapse it again. So maybe instead of just help, you say actually sort of like 2 or 3 words to say, what does the ordering of layouts in this page mean? Or something like that, which basically explains what, if people click on that thing, what are they going to see? What help text are they going to see about? That's my only feedback. But yeah, good point though, Tim. That's the default style that we use for field sets, right?
Yeah,
Would it be?
that's a default for the details element. So if the heading is too big, and I agree, it does sort of stand out, but maybe that's an issue for how we format the details element globally.
Right. Yeah, that might be a different design issue, a follow-up issue.
Yeah.
Maybe I could make a request for folks. I'm sympathetic, amenable to the point Greg just raised, that help is not as to the point as how layouts work or something like that. And so could I maybe ask people to post in the issue suggestions for what that wording should be?
Yeah, and if we end up doing something like this on 3 different pages, there should be something consistent about them. Like it could be help : with a description, or
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
or it might be a color or something. But I would like some consistency or something. If we have this on the roles page as well, there should be something about it that make them similar. But what that is, I don't know.
More info, more information.
Yep.
But definitely not the word more.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. And Joseph, you were trying to say something.
I was just gonna, about the add layout thing, would it be better if that was like a button instead of like visually a button, not necessarily a button element? Like would that make it stand out more?
It would, and that's how things work in D8 and D9. They're blue buttons.
And Greg, it seems to me you've expressed strong opinions before about what should be buttons and what shouldn't. So is this appropriate as a button, or?
Well, buttons are action like forms a bit, but we can style them differently. Yeah, we can style them.
So do you think that this could be a button that wouldn't break any usability rules?
I don't think it would break usability.
Okay.
It's just a styling decision. That's what we have been. That's what when we added those plus add something links. That's what we went with.
Yeah. So that sounds like a different issue, because this
Yes.
would affect other pages. But I agree that another way to solve the problem I raised would be to just have add layout stand out a little bit more. And to be honest, I feel like those links sometimes, it might not, the problem might not be with the help text. The problem might be with the action link. With the action link, just never was that prominent, and it should have been more prominent even without the help.
Yeah. The other thing, if we are hesitant to change those and make them, if it's considered a radical change, then maybe we can tone down the help thing. So it can be gray text in this specific, like it's not, if we make these specific purpose details element, so it has a different class of help, and then it has gray text or something that tones it down, that would solve the issue of prominence. And maybe smaller heading text as well. But yeah.
Okay, well, it looks like other people are showing up for the next meeting, so we should wrap this one up.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Okay, thanks everybody. We're going to end the design UX meeting and get ready for the dev meeting.
The meeting, yep. Thanks, everybody.
Oh, I almost